All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Two Men in Black and White, an honest conversation. We're going to pull Brock Ganeles in right off the top. Brock, what a day. Making those women recount the horror that they went through on Epstein Island, the Lolita Express, and the human trafficking that they suffered was absolutely painful to watch, to hear, to actually know that some of the most powerful people in this, not just this country, but around the world, took part in this heinous, ongoing trafficking of young girls. It was absolutely horrific. As if it wasn't bad enough, but just the collective, I think, really drove the point home for me. I mean, I thought it was bad. But after listening to them, it's even worse than I imagined.
There were so many angles to it today. And like we're two men in black and white, so we'll probably won't emote properly, right? The pain of the women that were there. But to me it was like the number of women that were there. Right? Like it was just it's like they could have had spoken all day, right? They had so many of the victims. So just the sheer numbers was kind of in essence, sort of overwhelming. Like I'm almost don't even know where to start on it. The performance by Marjorie Taylor Greene. You would think that she wasn't one of the craziest fucking wackos in the country. That she wasn't the same person chasing David Hogg down the streets of Washington, D.C. on this topic. She was so adamant and articulate and clear and precise and supportive. Like, you almost couldn't believe it was the same person. Two Republicans,
I was
right?
going to say, it was like night and day. Like, where is that version of Marjorie Greene on every other issue? She seems sensible, level headed, like you said, supportive, and anxious to get to the bottom of it.
Oh yeah, she's like, I'll read those names. Hand me that list. I'll read those names in the credential hall. The fact that it was two Republicans and only one Democrat kind of undercut the partisan nature of it, because it can be looked at as totally nonpartisan, right? I mean, it should be. I mean, it's absurd that there's a president caught up in it. This should be an issue that has nothing to do with anyone's politics. Yeah, all those elements. I mean, it was just very compelling. I mean, obviously, it was painful and hard for them, the women, to do. But I think it helped them to have each other. Right? There was that they were their own support group today. I mean, I could go on in a bunch of different things, but I mean, you know,
Can we
where
talk,
did it shake out for you? What's that?
can we talk about the courage that it must have taken to stand on the steps of the Capitol and tell those horrific stories and relive it for America, and then have someone have to ask the question, what do you think about the guy in the Oval Office who's saying this is all a hoax? How can this be a hoax when you have dozens of women lining up for a microphone to recount the most horrific episode in their lives?
This was the one question I had for you. Trump's reaction, of course, was, explain to me, if it's a hoax, why was Epstein in jail, and why is Ghislaine Maxwell in jail? If it's all a hoax, why is Ghislaine Maxwell in jail?
Yep, makes no sense.
Makes no sense. What's the
No,
hoax
you're
part of
right.
it? Didn't is Donald Trump's rebuttal that this is a hoax saying that every one of these women is lying and there was no pedophile ring? Jeffrey Epstein wasn't a pedophile. Maxwell wasn't a groomer slash pedophile. Epstein Island didn't happen. There weren't rapes. Like, what's not? What part of it's not a hoax? And if so, why in the court of law were these people put in jail? And why is there even how is there even a file if it's all a hoax?
Right, right.
So what is he trying to say? Trump's rebuttal is so weak and so nonsensical that it's barely got airtime today, right? Because no one can even put logic to what is he talking about. And I'm just waiting for the follow-up question. What part of this is the hoax?
Right, right. Because you had two people in jail for long sentences. Like Epstein was never getting out. right? He was never coming home. Maxwell should have never come home, right? So, I mean, can you imagine a pardon coming after that parade
How
of horror that just took place today? Can you imagine the person who took, and that's one of the things that we forget. Ghislaine Maxwell took part in the sexual assaults. She was a part of it. She was the one who lied and deceived these women to even get them into the layer, to get them on the airplane. Hey, I know a guy that can really boost your modeling career. Meet me at so and so private airport, and we're going to fly to his private island that he owns and let him talk to you. I think he's really going to like you. Who knows that means I'm now going to be human trafficked by some of the most powerful people in the world and get SA'd, right? Their whim. Jeffrey's ready. Did you hear that, bro? Jeffrey's ready for his massage.
So Trump's response is terrible. I mean, just other things like sort of quick hits before we maybe dive into like what the ramifications of today are. The asshole / childish / desperate Air Force flyover, right? To try to disrupt the speakers for like 30 seconds or maybe intimidate them, right? Because intimidation was like a theme of the day, right? Why didn't they name names today right out on the steps? Look, right. They're afraid. They're getting their ducks in a row, right? Yes. Why haven't they said something in the past? They've all been threatened for years and decades. Like that element of it doesn't going away. That doesn't go away. They've all gotten death threats. They've all gotten, some of them been stalked, some of those stories. Like this is like true, Lisa Murkowski's afraid to vote a certain way. These people are like literally have been intimidated, families threatened with death, right? And it feels real and it resonates, and you're not surprised. You're like, yeah, they want to keep you quiet. That doesn't surprise me.
Absolutely. But Brock, getting back to the flyover, right? How ignorant is that? Imagine that they probably had to shut down traffic at air traffic at Reagan National, right? You can't do a flyover.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right over a major airport, DCA. That's the call sign for Reagan National.
Trump doesn't care. He doesn't care. Okay. Someone on his team decided this. He greenlit it, that they were going to have this flyover. There's no doubt there was an intimidation factor playing it. The timing was not a random coincidence.
Exactly. It was time. It wasn't a signal of intimidation to keep your mouth shut. But what I liked is the lady stood strong. That Linda Phillips, the podcast host, she has a podcast called Surviving Epstein, right? They talked about creating hey, we were the ones that were abused. We know who the abusers are.
Yeah.
We're creating our own list.
Yeah, that one woman was like, we're writing, we have the list. She walked away with a stay tuned.
Yeah.
We finished with stay tuned. And it was like, okay, you know what? I'll bet you America will stay tuned.
You're goddamn right. And you know what? Also, that just puckered up a whole bunch of rear ends, right? There's a whole bunch of people who are tight right now wondering what these women are going to do next.
Yeah, when? And also when? When's that shoe going to drop?
Well, I think the shoe drops after the vote fails on the Epstein Transparency Act, right? And every lawmaker who votes no, right, will be targeted, to get primaried.
They need two Republicans need to vote yes.
Yes. Right.
Where's my favorite Republican, Mike Lawler from Westchester County, our old stomping ground, right? Right? Now he says he's not MAGA, middle of the road guy, right? A moderate. So you're a moderate. Where do you stand on this? What could possibly be your reason for voting to not have these transparency on these files after that press conference today? After what Marjorie Taylor Greene had to say, what would possibly your motivation for voting no? Who are you protecting? Who are you protecting?
There is none. Because if you're voting with the pedophiles, you're voting to protect pedophilia, sex trafficking,
Yeah.
right? Sexual assault. You're voting for those things. You're in favor of those things. You're not worthy of leadership in this country. And we could have an entire political party vote no to this Epstein Transparency Act.
And they're trying to intimidate Thomas Massey. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene's so crazy they probably can't even get into her head to intimidate her. But Thomas Massey, the other Republican who, with Ro Khanna really spearheaded this today and spearheaded the legislation, I mean, they're telling him that this is like an act of like betrayal and like they're talking about him, meaning the MAGA movement. Trump's circle is talking about him right now the way they talk about Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. Like, this guy is basically, they're talking like excommunication from the MAGA movement because he wants to see these files.
Right. And again, the MAGA base wants to see these files. The QAnon crazies want to see these files, right? Americans that care about women want to see the, and that's a lot of women, but a lot of men too. When we were talking about abortion rights, I was beyond, befuddled with men in America. Don't you have women in your life that you actually care about? Right? Like, how could you vote, to give Donald Trump or some, senator, right, the ability to go into the, gynecologist realm and decide what's best, for your wife's body, right? Regardless of whether or not her life may be in peril. That's the thing that got me, even if the mother's life is in danger, we're going to charge you with a crime. What is that? It's barbaric. It's Handmaid's Tales, which is hard to watch, by the way. I don't know if you folks have seen it out there, but that is hard to watch and hard to stomach. And the fact that these ladies got up today, hit you with a stay tuned, and said, we're not going anywhere, and we've been threatened. We've been quiet for Linda Phillips said she'd been quiet for 15 years. On an interview on her podcast, she said that she met Prince Andrew on Epstein Island. She was assaulted on Epstein Island by Jeffrey himself. With Ghislaine standing there chuckling. Right? All these women, they've all got similar stories. It was some lure, right, of a better life, a better condition. How about the young lady that ended up dropping out of high school because Jeffrey called her so much? Taking care of her mother and sister and couldn't go to school because he called her so much. Unbelievable, bro. I mean, it was beyond what I expected. Like, I
Yeah.
expected it to be bad, but it was much worse than I anticipated.
And they named some names. They mentioned the guy from Victoria's Secret, right? All the people in these modeling agencies. It was all part of sort of the modeling world. And that's where
Right.
Trump comes into play, right? Because he had his modeling agency
Right.
that lured young women in on the prospect of jobs and careers. But we know that was one of the funders of Epstein. But there's a lot of money behind this, right? Like they said today, J.P. Morgan and Deutsche Bank would not have settled for hundreds of millions of dollars, in essence, for their illegal actions. Like, what were their illegal actions? What were they doing? They were helping fund this pedophile ring, so they cut a big check to keep it quiet also, because they could write, in essence, everyone cut a lot of checks to keep it quiet. I mean, this rode through the entire Me Too movement like it was going on in the background, but like it never got the visibility it got today. Even today, though, right before we came on the podcast, I just scrolled around to some of the news services, scrolled to NewYorkTimes.com just to see. It's not the top story on the page.
Nope.
Middle of the page.
Yep.
They have some Harvard story at the top and some other, kind of bullshit on there. Like, really? This wasn't to me, this was like the only news story in America today. Like, this was the story.
Period. On AP, Associated Press, live updates. Trump sending National Guard troops to New Orleans next? Who cares? Who cares? We just had a dozen women standing at a podium accusing some of the most powerful men in the world of sex trafficking, sexual assault, inappropriate behavior, right? Luring young girls into a life of, there are girls that weren't able to be there who are would be young women now, but they're not here anymore because they weren't strong enough to keep going. Did you hear? Weren't strong enough to keep going. They took their own
Yeah,
lives.
well, they took their own life. So it's like a 30-year cover-up, right?
Yes.
I mean, it is the biggest story of the day. Trump's calling it a hoax. That's not going to work. A couple Republican Congress people being very loud about it, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has, like her or hate her, has a big following, right?
Right.
She has a megaphone and she sounded pissed. I think it's going to get voted down because Republicans, the MAGA movement always stays in lockstep in the end and
Yep.
threatens each other into submission. But the question is, will the press the press has already failed by not making it a bigger story even today.
Yep.
But I just get the sense that now that the women have started speaking, that they're not going to stop. And I hope they fight this to the finish, as hard as that is for them personally.
Right. Well, I just feel like the next shoe drops after if the Epstein Transparency Act fails. Now, with, the two Republicans you had on the steps of the Capitol today, that could be enough to get by. Right? Are all the Democrats going to vote up?
I think all the Democrats vote up. No, I think the Republicans need two more beyond Green and Massey.
Beyond Green and Massey? Okay.
Yeah, beyond Green and Massey. They need two more. They need four in total. And, I mean, I don't have a sense that they have those two other votes.
Right. Who could they be? Right? Nobody else has the kind of, crazy that Marjorie Taylor Greene has. James Comer will do whatever they tell him to do. Right? He's kind of fly by night. We never know. I mean, none of them have any conviction. None of them care enough, to risk their own political skin. And none of them are strong enough to stand up to Kankel's McTaco tits.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds sexist, but like, how does a woman justify MAGA? How do they hang in there? Like, what did they? The things you have to overlook in order to stay dedicated to the how racist are you, right?
Right, exactly.
To stay in the movement, right? To want to stay in the movement, right? Knowing that, like, if your daughter got lured in and sexually assaulted and then threatened with her life never to say anything, she'd have no recourse and the law would not be on her side.
Right.
The law would ignore her.
Right.
And Mark, it's interesting if we talk in black and white, like, this is mostly a white, there is some people of color there, but it's mostly a white person's story, right?
Yeah.
Well, Epstein circles all white people. Most of the victims are white people. This is very much a white person's story.
Yeah, and which surprised me that we would stand by and let white women be assaulted, young girls be assaulted, because now, missing white woman syndrome is a real thing in the news business, the television news industry, right? Because if a white woman goes missing, it's all hands on deck, right? Take a look at some of the high profile cases of white women gone missing or white girls gone missing. What was the young lady's name in Utah? I'm getting old. I can't remember her name.
I don't remember either. Yeah. They were in the van.
Yeah. She's still like
Gabby Petito.
Oh, that was the recent one, Gabby Petito. But yeah, I mean, missing white woman syndrome is huge. And to think, that many of these women are just throwaways is unconscionable, and that's almost how they've been looked at,
I mean, society's done it, like, that's American society, right?
Right.
Look, Trump hasn't yet been actually directly implicated in the Epstein we know he's been on the plane, right? Like no one's come out and said his name yet, right? No videos come out yet. We all just know he was involved because 20, 30 women have already accused him of sexual assault. Like, and yeah, he can discredit all of them and call them all a hoax, but like, come on. It's obvious who he is as a person.
Right.
But, American society's been ignoring women getting assaulted certainly our entire lifetimes.
Yes, sir.
Maybe this turns a corner, but like I said right off the bat, I'm not that encouraged by the press coverage coming out of it. And by the way, I went to foxnews.com, I clicked on the play, and it sent me to an ad, and I couldn't get to the press conference from foxnews.com. I had to jump over to YouTube and watch it on a different feed. And then I read later in the day that Fox was not covering it. So I don't know if they stepped up and covered it in the way that you thought they were yesterday. I mean, they had it on their website, but the link didn't work. I wonder if that was just an intern made a mistake. Yeah. Link didn't work.
That was purposeful, right? That was done on purpose, right? And your maggots, your hashtag maggot morons, they don't get it, right?
They didn't see it. They don't even know what happened.
Yeah, they.
I don't know. The QAnon people must have been watching today.
People found it. They found it because again, this is all they got, right? When this is over, what else they're gonna chase? More pedophiles, another Pizzagate situation, another Hillary Clinton. I mean, we haven't heard Hillary's name in a month of Sundays. She's not up to anything. So what are they going to do? Absolutely nothing. But just think about the voluminous file that must exist from 30 years worth of investigation into Epstein. I mean, remember, this guy was convicted and did weekends in the county jail and was allowed a separate area, a computer, a television, and he was even sneaking out, right, to go conduct business.
Commit more crimes. But they got his computers. They had, boxes full of videotapes. Think of all the shit they've seen that they have on, that they have in the evidence room, right? Like, there's beyond files. There's just so much. So many, and there's how many names and pictures and stuff that they have. I mean, this is a massive cover-up.
Oh my God. Of the worst kind. For the worst people.
So is Trump he's playing the hoax card right now, and he's gonna stick with that till the end, probably.
Yeah, he's gonna have to.
Now, I think part of why he's falling apart physically is because of the internal pressure of this, because he knows he's guilty, he knows he's caught. He doesn't even sound that strong when he's pushing back. He has no counterpunch because there's no one to counterpunch at. It's 20, 100 women, right? He doesn't even know the names, right? They're just coming up to a microphone and telling stories. Like, there's no one person to discredit. You're just trying to discredit a wave of people. It doesn't work that well. And his heart doesn't even seem in it. He doesn't have the fire in fighting back on this one. So I feel like it's part of why he's falling apart physically, because he's, this is one of the few things that's gotten through and is chipping away at his psychopathy and narcissism. He's kind of knows he's caught. But will he just ride it out? Will he be able to ride it out?
I don't think so. I think the pressure, of course, the vote coming up. Now Congress is back in session. Little Mike can't send them back home again. You got work to do. We still got to pass a government funding bill.
Yeah.
They got a lot of shit to do, right? He can't just be sending folks back home. And when they vote, this vote, might spell the end of his presidency. If they get those other two Republicans we're talking about, this could spell the end of his presidency. This could be a major disaster for a lot of heavy hitters in this country, because think about it. They got JP Morgan, two of the biggest banks in the world, involved in helping cover this thing up and helping fund it and being a major role player in it. Right?
Yeah.
What is it? 9,999 you can send at a time?
Yeah. Unlocked.
These guys are transferring millions of dollars.
This could come around and bite Jamie Dimon a chase in the ass because the cameras start coming around him and go, well, what did you know and when did you know it and what was your involvement? Why'd you write a check? Why didn't you fight it in court? Like, did your company under your watch, facilitate, money laundering and trafficking? So yeah, it can get it'll bleed out into a lot of places if they don't keep the lid on it, which is why I think the vote is gonna be a no vote because the pressure on all these Republican Congress people is going to be huge. Their phones must be ringing off the hook of people telling them to shut the fuck up and vote no. And that's how MAGA is going to play this one, in my opinion.
Yeah, and also though, think about it. Trump's unwell, and he still doesn't look healthy. The pressure and stress from this episode as it continues, and now he's got the pressure of we're compiling our own list, so we don't have to necessarily wait for the DOJ. We know the names. We were the ones that were abused.
They could leak out like a name a day, right?
For months.
Yeah, they could just string the story out. But Trump's not going to be able to go to a press conference where the question doesn't come up, right? Yesterday, he couldn't handle the question about people thinking he was dead, right? That kind of surprised him. He didn't have a good answer. He looked like a fumbling idiot as usual. But today, right, he's with the Prime Minister of Poland, and there's questions coming up about the press conference, and he has to talk for 2-3 rambling minutes about what a hoax it is.
Right.
I mean, if we had a real press corps, they would keep peppering him, and they should.
And it was so nonsensical, right? He was talking in circles, just a bunch of word vomit. I mean, it doesn't make, once you start with it's all a hoax, and we've got 15 women we're looking at talking about the horror they survived. Like,
what's in it for them? They have no upside for being out there, right?
Exactly.
It's the worst thing they've ever had to do in their lives. But also you're trying to call it a Democratic hoax.
Right.
And you got Marjorie Taylor Greene out there right in front of the band. Like, it just doesn't add up. Oh, so the zaniest MAGA congresswoman is out in front on this, and you're trying to say this is partisan? She's she's more MAGA than you are.
She is MAGA. She started this freaking
Yeah, if you had to draw a picture of MAGA, it would be her.
It would be her, right? And Brock, too, again, let's not discount the impact that this horror has had on their lives. The one woman who got up and talked about the impact that it has in tearing families apart, making it difficult for them to be parents, mothers to their daughters, right? Imagine how difficult that must be for these women, right? To mother their children and to try to keep them safe from, the people who are supposed to be working for us, right? People who the public thinks are amazing human beings, doing wonderful things the world over. Meanwhile, they're raping and SAing, right, young girls. It's horrific. It really is horrific.
Yeah, this is like the worst story of our fucking lifetimes. But the thing is, it's been there in plain sight for 20, 30 years, as we said. I mean, it's not a hidden story, right? Epstein got arrested. Now, he got a sweetheart deal, but he got arrested.
Right.
Then, he died mysteriously, right? Like, he was basically probably killed. We just can't prove it. Then Maxwell got arrested, and she's in jail. Like, this story, I mean, how has it stayed at such a low burn to the point where these women's stories never got out, and it never bubbled past those two people.
Right.
Literally no one else has been indicted except Prince Andrew has been embarrassed because everyone knows he was involved. He kind of implicated himself over time, right? He couldn't keep, but no one else. After 30 years, no one else. So yeah, it seems like it's coming ahead. Today was like a really big day on that front. It dwarfed every other story. I think the only other thing that's just absurd is Tom Homan, Homeland Security, saying that they're going to go into basically every city. That's flood the zone, he's saying now, that they're going to quote, raid every city in America. So really, the American people are on board for that?
Right.
And the National Guard are coming to every city. You said New Orleans. They're already talking about the next city. They haven't even gone to Chicago. basically urban America is going to have to stand up. And arguably it's easier to protest when they come to you. You just got to flood the street. You just got to flood the streets. That's the only other story to me that's even worth talking about today.
Yeah, Brock, we got some pushback from some folks that must live in Chicago who, pointed out that obviously we had never been in the inner loop. Well, first of all, I have. Second of all, you're okay with, American troops patrolling your streets, denying you your rights, because these folks are working just like ICE. They're just disappearing folks. We don't know where they're taking them. We don't know where any arrests that these National Guard troops are making are headed for. What kind of court do you take them to? Do they go to county court? Do they go to city court? Where do they go? Do they go to federal court? Like, what kind of arrests are these?
I don't know.
These legal questions. We don't know. And you're pushing back on me saying, oh, obviously you've never been, a witness to this crime. I mean, I can read. I understand how bad it is in Chicago. But from all accounts, and I mean all accounts, the numbers are saying that things are better. Maybe not as good as we'd like them to be, but they're better than they were.
There's going to be crime in any free society. And if the answer is you want an authoritarian state, a military state, yeah, there's less crime in a military state. Right. But there's also less freedom, no freedom, and no justice. And now you've given up everything just because you feel, quote, safer. Are you really safer? I mean, like, I don't know, move to China, move to Russia, move to a totalitarian state. I guess you'll feel safer. It's a little bit of the American trade-off. We're a free society. There's going to be crime in a free society. You want it as little as possible, but our answer, I think most Americans, and polling starting to show this, don't want our troops to be in charge of trying to keep crime down, because now we've just changed the whole tenor of the country. And it's not, I mean, I think I speak for the majority when I'm like, that's just not what we want them doing. Not only they're not trained for it, we don't want our streets to have military on it. That's just not the life we want to live. Nope. So yeah, we got a lot of pushback, but I mean, there's a lot of opinions out there. It's fine. We love to hear them. Exactly. I just disagreed with what I saw. Like, I mean, okay, you have crime, but the answer is not to call in the military, in my opinion.
Right. And, it's almost ludicrous, to think that that's what our military is doing. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, and President Xi all gathered today for a military parade to laugh at Donald Trump. Putin, Jong-un, and Xi, the three biggest threats to the United States, collaborating on the world stage at a military parade, while our leader, juxtapose this, our leader is embroiled in the biggest sex trafficking and human trafficking pedophile ring in the history of this country. Which one would you rather have, right? I mean, it is awful to think that this is how low we have sunk. This is rock bottom in terms of American leadership history. We've had racist leaders. Yes, we have. We acknowledge that. But none have sunk to this level where they are openly essaying women, children, and then calling it a hoax. Every time he's accused, somebody made it up. Everybody can't be lying. All these people can't be. Even a judge said you did it. Even Stormy Daniels said you did it. And you know what? Where there's smoke, there's fire. And I can't breathe right now.
Of course. But the only thing I disagree with you on right there is I don't think we've hit rock bottom. I mean, I see it getting worse. The economy's getting worse. Now we're going to send troops into more cities, so we're going to have more unlawful law enforcement activity on our city streets, which means we're likely to have more violence, not less violence. We're certainly going to have less justice, less freedom, right? Less rule of law on our streets. So, and now we're going to be bombing more random boats in the Caribbean and other waters because we've decided we're declaring war on these drug cartels, right? So now we're just going to perpetrate more illegal international warfare, basically. So yeah, I see it getting worse certainly before it gets better. And Trump's getting older, he's getting less healthy, and he's dipping deeper into mental decline. So yeah, I don't think we hit rock bottom.
And JD Vance is just like taking up space and taking up free air. I mean, that guy's worthless. What does he do? And why is he so annoying? He's got the most punchable face in America.
He's
I've
sitting
never
back
seen
there.
anybody
He's
annoying.
sitting back there waiting for Trump to die.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's the only plausible explanation for him being in the building. I don't know why he just doesn't go back to the residence and wait there.
Wait,
Just go back to the VP residence, wait there. We'll call you when he's gone. I mean, that's it. All right, quick hits. You got anything else before we go?
no. I mean, that was my total focus for the day was watching the watching that press conference. So
After
I
so
had
long.
tunnel vision today.
Yeah,
How
me
about
too.
you? Anything else going on out there?
Nothing else ruffled my feathers like that, bro. Like I was watching it like with my mouth on the floor, just dumbfounded that we are letting this go on. And did you hear their reaction to Ghislaine being moved to Club Fed? They were disgusted by it.
Pissed.
Disgusted. And they didn't even know until after it happened. They didn't even know. One young lady said she got a message after she had been transferred. Thanks a lot, DOJ. Wow. Oh my God. Okay. Let's wrap it up, bro. I mean, that was enough for today. That was a lot. But let's rack it up and do it again tomorrow.
Yeah, well, keep a close eye on how the media covers it. I think it's kind of important. It's actually a chance for the media maybe to redeem themselves a little bit after 9 months of, fucking D minus performance, but not impressed by what I've seen so far.
At
Hopefully it
all.
changes.
Yeah, man. All
All
right,
right.
buddy.
Okay,
Always a
Mark. Talk to you
pleasure.
tomorrow.
Peace.